Life in all its complexity is a continuous dance of destruction and creation. Just as the waves crash against the shore, eroding what once stood, they also bring forth new forms, reshaping the coastline over time. And in much the same way, we too must be willing to let go, to surrender to the forces that seek to dismantle what we've clung to, if we are to rebuild ourselves anew. Rebuilding yourself is not about fixing something broken. It's about recognizing that the person you were is not the person you are becoming. You are not bound by the past, nor the roles you once played. In fact, the first step to truly rebuilding is detachment. Detachment from the identities you've constructed, the labels you've accepted, and the roles you've adopted. These are mere costumes, fragments of stories you've told yourself. But the deeper truth of who you are cannot be contained in a simple definition or label. To rebuild is to shed these skins, to free yourself from the weight of expectation and rediscover the essence that lies beneath. And yet, to rebuild does not mean rejecting who you are in this moment. It is essential in the process of transformation to fully embrace the person you are now, imperfections, flaws and all. For if you cannot accept yourself in your present form, how can you authentically grow into something new? Rebuilding begins with this acceptance, this acknowledgement of your humanity, your complexity, and your ongoing evolution. Only by standing in the fullness of your current self can you step forward into something greater. Consider the rhythm of nature. The trees do not cling to their leaves in the autumn, afraid of the cold winter ahead. Instead, they let go with grace, understanding that new life will emerge in time. The forest does not rush to regrow after a fire. It understands that destruction is part of a larger cycle, that new growth requires time, space, and stillness. So too must you allow the quiet spaces in your life, the moments of stillness and reflection, to nourish the soil of your soul. For it is in these moments of silence that the seeds of transformation are planted. In the process of rebuilding, remember that life is not a straight path towards some idealized version of perfection. Perfection itself is an illusion, a fleeting moment in the ever-flowing river of existence. Rather than seeking to mold yourself into something rigid and unchanging, let your rebuilding be fluid. Like water, allow yourself to adapt to the circumstances you find yourself in. Flow with life rather than against it. Rebuilding is not about controlling the outcome, but about aligning yourself with the natural ebb and flow of existence. Ultimately, to rebuild yourself is to recognize that you are not a static being. You are part of a living, breathing universe, one that is constantly in flux. The journey of rebuilding is not a destination, but a process, an ongoing adventure of rediscovery and renewal. Let go of what no longer serves you, embrace who you are in this moment, and trust in the rhythm of life to guide you as you rebuild yourself time and time again. Change is the natural rhythm of existence, a constant current flowing through our lives, shaping and reshaping us as we move along its course. Yet so often we resist it, clinging to what is familiar, even when it no longer serves us. We fear the unknown, the uncertainty that comes with letting go of the past and stepping into the unfamiliar terrain of the future. But the truth is, real transformation requires that we surrender to this process of change. To rebuild yourself, you must first embrace the inevitability of change, not as something to be feared, but as a necessary part of growth. Change is not the enemy, it is the force that pushes us to evolve beyond the limitations of who we were. If you look to nature, you'll see that nothing remains static. The seasons shift, rivers carve new paths, and even the stars move across the sky in a cosmic dance. In the same way, our lives are not meant to remain fixed or rigid. We are not meant to stay trapped in the person we were yesterday or the roles we played in the past. What you must understand is that change does not happen all at once. It unfolds gradually, often subtly, over time. Like a seed sprouting beneath the soil, transformation begins in the unseen places of your life. It's in the quiet moments, in the decisions you make each day, in the small shifts in perspective that you begin to rebuild yourself. Often the changes happening within you are imperceptible at first. But just because they are unseen doesn't mean they aren't powerful. True growth is an organic process, and it requires patience, trust, and above all, a willingness to allow things to unfold in their own time. We often think of rebuilding as a task to be completed, something to accomplish and then be done with. But in reality, rebuilding yourself is an ongoing process. Just as the cells in your body are constantly renewing, so too is your soul. Each experience, each relationship, each challenge leaves its mark, reshaping who you are at your core. The person you are today is not the same person you were 5 years ago, or even 5 months ago. And that's the beauty of it. You are constantly in the process of becoming, of evolving into a fuller, richer expression of your true self. When you embrace change as an ally rather than an adversary, you free yourself from the limitations of fear and resistance. You begin to see that every ending is also a beginning, and every moment of loss carries within it the seed of new possibilities. And change becomes less about losing something and more about gaining new perspectives, new opportunities, new ways of being. It's in this openness to change that true rebuilding occurs. You are not here to stay the same, to live in a state of stasis. You are here to grow, to explore, and to become the most authentic version of yourself. The process of change, like life itself, is not linear. It is cyclical, often messy and unpredictable. There will be times when you feel like you're moving backward, times when the progress seems slow or non-existent. But these moments of stagnation or regression are part of the process. They offer space for reflection, for integration, and for the deeper shifts that often take place beneath the surface. Trust that even in the moments of uncertainty, you are still moving forward, still being shaped and guided by the natural rhythm of change. To rebuild yourself, you must not only accept the process of change, but embrace it with curiosity and wonder. See it as an adventure, a journey into the unknown where each step brings you closer to the person you are meant to become. Let go of the need to control the outcome and instead allow yourself to be carried by the flow of life. In doing so, you will find that the process of change is not something to be feared, but something to be celebrated. It is through change that you will discover your strength, your resilience, and your capacity to rebuild yourself over and over again. There is a great weight we carry when we hold on to the person we used to be. We often define ourselves by the roles we've played, the decisions we've made, and the labels we've been given, whether by society or by ourselves. These identities, while once meaningful, can become a cage, trapping us in patterns of behavior and thought that no longer serve who we are becoming. The act of rebuilding yourself begins with releasing this attachment to past identities, for it is only in letting go that you create space for new possibilities to emerge. We are not static beings. The version of you that existed years ago, even yesterday, is not the same person standing here today. But the mind, in its quest for certainty and comfort, clings to the past. We believe that who we were is a fixed truth, something that must be carried forward into the future. This creates a sense of security, a feeling that we know who we are. But that very sense of identity, while familiar, often restricts the potential for growth. Rebuilding requires you to release that grip and allow yourself to evolve without the limitations of your past self. Consider for a moment how many of your current beliefs about who you are come from outdated stories. Perhaps you've held on to the idea that you're not good enough because of a past failure. Or maybe you've identified as a certain type of person, a career, a role in a relationship, a personality trait because it gave you a sense of belonging or validation at some point. But these identities are not you. They are fleeting, temporary constructs built on past experiences, environments, and circumstances. They served a purpose once, but they are not the totality of who you are. True rebuilding begins when you acknowledge that these roles and labels are not your essence. They are like garments you wore for a time, but now it's time to take them off and step into something new. The more you cling to these past identities, the more you limit yourself to living in a past version of reality. Detaching from these identities does not mean erasing your past or pretending it didn't happen. It means recognizing that you are more than the sum of your experiences, more than the roles you've played. You are constantly evolving, constantly becoming something new. This process of detachment can feel uncomfortable, even disorienting at first. We often derive a sense of stability from the identities we've built, and letting go of them can feel like losing our footing. But it is in this very discomfort that the possibility for transformation lies. By detaching from the past, you create the opportunity to redefine yourself in the present. You no longer have to live according to the scripts that others wrote for you, or even the ones you wrote for yourself long ago. You can begin to ask, who am I now? What do I want to become? When you let go of past identities, you begin to see that your true self is not bound by any label or role. The essence of who you are is fluid, dynamic, and expansive. It cannot be neatly categorized or confined. By shedding these past identities, you allow your true nature to emerge free, unburdened, and open to infinite possibilities. This doesn't mean you discard the lessons you've learned or the experiences that shaped you. On the contrary, you honor them, but you no longer let them define you. Detachment from past identities also means freeing yourself from the expectations that others have placed upon you. Often we cling to certain roles because they make others comfortable, or because they align with how we've been perceived by family, friends, or society. But rebuilding yourself is not about fulfilling anyone else's vision of who you should be. It is about reclaiming your own authenticity, unfiltered by the desires or judgments of others. This may mean stepping away from relationships or environments that reinforce old versions of yourself. It may require difficult conversations or moments of solitude as you realign with who you truly are. Ultimately, detaching from past identities is about trusting that you are not the sum of your past, but the potential of your future. You are not confined by the roles you've played or the mistakes you've made. You are a constantly evolving being capable of renewal and reinvention. To rebuild yourself, you must step away from the shadows of who you were and into the light of who you can become. Let go of the need to cling to past definitions, and you will find that the freedom to rebuild is already within you. Before any true transformation can take place, there must be an acceptance of who you are in this very moment. This acceptance is not resignation. It's not about settling for your current reality or choosing to stay stagnant. Rather, self-acceptance is about looking at yourself as you are now, flaws, imperfections, strengths, and all, and embracing the entirety of your being. It is a deep acknowledgement of your humanity, of the journey you've been on, and of the complexity that makes you who you are. Only from this foundation of self-compassion can real transformation begin. Often we approach change with a sense of dissatisfaction, even self-rejection. We look at ourselves in the mirror, and all we see are the aspects we wish to change, the things we perceive as wrong or insufficient. We tell ourselves, I will be happy once I fix this, once I become that. But in this mindset, transformation becomes an act of erasing ourselves rather than evolving. When you approach transformation from a place of rejection, you are not rebuilding, you are simply running from the present version of yourself. And you cannot outrun yourself. True transformation, lasting and meaningful change, starts with the understanding that who you are right now is enough. This doesn't mean that you don't have room to grow. It simply means that your worth, your value, and your potential do not depend on some future version of yourself. You are already complete, even in your incompleteness. When you recognize this, transformation becomes less about striving to be something else and more about unfolding into a fuller, more authentic version of yourself. Self-acceptance is also about making peace with the parts of yourself that you've tried to hide or deny. We all have shadows, those aspects of ourselves that we feel are too messy, too vulnerable, or too painful to confront. But those shadows are part of you and they hold valuable lessons. By bringing them into the light of self-acceptance, you integrate these parts into your wholeness. You stop fighting against yourself, and in doing so, you free up the energy that can now be used for true growth. Accepting your flaws, your mistakes, and your limitations doesn't mean you're endorsing them. It means you're choosing to stop waging an internal war. Only from this place of inner peace can transformation flourish. In accepting yourself, you also embrace your past, your choices, your experiences, and everything that has led you to this point. Many times we hold ourselves back from transformation because we carry guilt, shame, or regret over past decisions. We believe that because we made mistakes, we don't deserve to change, or we think we must first atone for those mistakes before we can move forward. But self-acceptance means acknowledging that you did the best you could with the knowledge and tools you had at the time. You are not bound by your past. You are allowed to evolve. And that evolution begins the moment you release the weight of self-judgment and forgive yourself. This process of self-acceptance is not a single moment of realization. It is a practice, one that you return to again and again, especially when doubts arise. There will be times when you fall into the old pattern of self-criticism, when you look at yourself and feel inadequate or undeserving. In those moments, remind yourself that acceptance is a choice, and it is a choice that allows transformation to occur. You cannot hate yourself into a better version of you. But by accepting yourself, you create the space and the freedom to become what you are meant to be. When you accept yourself fully, you are no longer chasing some idealized version of who you think you should be. You begin to honor your own unique path. Transformation becomes less about conforming to external expectations or achieving some arbitrary goal, and more about unfolding naturally into your truest expression. You trust that the process of growth will take place in its own time, in its own way, and that you are enough at every stage of that journey. In this way, self-acceptance is the fertile ground from which transformation can grow. Just as a seed must be planted in nourishing soil to sprout, your transformation must be rooted in the rich soil of self-love and compassion. You don't rush the seed to grow, nor do you criticize it for not blooming fast enough. You trust that it will unfold in its own time, and you give it the care and patience it needs to thrive. The same is true for yourself. So before you can truly rebuild yourself, before you can step into the new version of who you are becoming, you must first look inward and embrace the person you already are. Love yourself in your imperfection. Trust that you are worthy of transformation, not because of who you will become, but because of who you are now. Only when you stand firmly in this self-acceptance can you begin the journey of transformation with clarity, strength, and grace. In the natural world, everything follows its own rhythm, a timeless cycle of birth, growth, decay, and renewal. The trees do not rush their leaves to bud in spring, nor do the rivers force their flow. Nature moves at its own pace, in perfect harmony with the forces that guide it. To rebuild yourself, you too must learn to align with this rhythm, allowing yourself to move with the flow of life rather than resisting it or forcing things to happen prematurely. When you align with nature's rhythm, you tap into a deeper wisdom, one that knows when to grow, when to rest, and when to let go. Too often, we find ourselves rushing through life, pushing against the natural current, believing that more effort or more control will lead us to the transformation we seek. But nature teaches us that true growth happens in cycles, not in a straight line. There are times for expansion and times for contraction, moments of intense activity and moments of stillness. Just as winter is a necessary part of the year, giving the earth time to rest and restore itself, so too are periods of quiet and reflection necessary in your own process of rebuilding. When you try to force change, you are not aligning with the natural flow of life. Instead, you are creating tension, both within yourself and in the world around you. This tension can manifest as frustration, burnout, or a sense of being stuck. But when you learn to trust in the rhythm of life, you allow yourself to be carried by the current rather than struggling against it. In this way, rebuilding yourself becomes less about control and more about surrender to the timing of your life, to the seasons of growth, and to the natural ebb and flow that exists in all things. Consider the way a flower grows. It doesn't bloom overnight, nor does it open its petals before it is ready. First, the seed is planted in the dark, unseen beneath the soil. For a time, there is no visible growth, but beneath the surface, roots are being established. Then, when the conditions are right, the right balance of sunlight, rain, and nutrients, the seed begins to sprout, and eventually the flower blooms. This is the natural process of growth, and it cannot be rushed. The same is true for you. There will be times in your life when it feels like nothing is happening, when progress seems slow or invisible. But these periods are necessary. They are the times when your roots are growing deep, preparing you for the next phase of your journey. Part of aligning with nature's rhythm means recognizing that not all growth is visible. Just because you can't see immediate results doesn't mean that nothing is changing. Sometimes the most profound transformations happen internally in the quiet spaces of your soul before they manifest in the external world. Trusting in this process requires patience, but it also requires faith that life is unfolding exactly as it should, and that you are always growing, even when it doesn't feel like it. Nature also teaches us the importance of letting go. The trees do not cling to their leaves in autumn, fearing the barren winter ahead. Instead, they release them with grace, trusting that new growth will come in the spring. In the same way, you must learn to let go of the parts of yourself that no longer serve your highest good. This could mean releasing old habits, outdated beliefs, or even relationships that have run their course. Just as nature sheds what is no longer needed to make way for new life, you too must create space for your own renewal. This letting go is not a loss, it is a necessary part of the cycle of transformation. In a world filled with constant noise, activity, and distraction, silence can seem almost uncomfortable, something to avoid or fill as quickly as possible. Yet silence is where true rebuilding begins. It is within this quiet space that we can hear the deeper call of our own being, the voice that is often drowned out by the demands of everyday life. Silence creates a sanctuary, a sacred pause where we can reflect, reassess, and reconnect with the core of who we are. It is the foundation upon which authentic transformation is built. Silence is not just the absence of sound, it is the presence of stillness. When we immerse ourselves in silence, we give ourselves the gift of being fully present with what is, without the distraction of external noise or the constant chatter of the mind. In this stillness, we become more attuned to our inner landscape, the emotions, thoughts, and desires that often go unnoticed in the rush of daily life. This self-awareness is crucial in the process of rebuilding because it allows us to truly understand what needs to be transformed and why. In silence, we also become aware of the stories we tell ourselves, the narratives we have constructed about who we are and what we are capable of. Often these stories are limiting, shaped by past experiences, fears, or societal expectations. But in the quiet, when the noise of these stories fades away, we can begin to see beyond them. Silence offers a clarity that allows us to discern between the voices of our conditioned self and the voice of our true self. It is in this clarity that the foundation for rebuilding is laid. We start to recognize the parts of ourselves that no longer align with who we want to become and make room for the new, the authentic, and the unburdened. Silence also teaches us patience. In a culture that values instant results and quick fixes, the process of rebuilding can feel slow, even frustrating at times. But silence reminds us that true growth takes time. In the stillness, we learn to wait, to trust in the unfolding of life's natural rhythm. Just as a seed must lie dormant in the earth before it sprouts, so too must we embrace periods of quiet, where little seems to be happening on the surface. It is during these times of silence that the deepest transformations are occurring, even if they are not yet visible. In the process of rebuilding, silence becomes not only a refuge but a guide. It allows us to tune into the subtler currents of life, the gentle nudges that point us toward the direction we need to take. Without silence, we may miss these cues, distracted by the external noise and the expectations of others. But in the stillness, we can feel the pull of our own intuition, the quiet wisdom that arises when we stop trying to force change and instead allow it to emerge naturally from within. Rebuilding yourself also requires an openness to the unknown, and silence is the perfect space in which to explore this. When we sit in silence, we are faced with uncertainty, with the vastness of possibility that lies beyond the boundaries of our current understanding. It is in this space that new ideas, perspectives, and paths can arise. Silence invites creativity and innovation. It is the void from which all new things are born. Without it, we risk rebuilding ourselves according to old patterns, simply repeating the past rather than truly transforming. In silence, we also learn to embrace the power of being rather than doing. So much of rebuilding is focused on action-changing habits, setting goals, moving toward a new version of ourselves. But silence teaches us that sometimes the most profound shifts happen not through action but through stillness. In simply being present with ourselves, without the need to do or achieve, we allow the deeper currents of transformation to take place. We begin to rebuild from a place of inner peace rather than from a need to prove or accomplish. Ultimately, silence is the ground from which all rebuilding must grow. It is the space where we can listen to ourselves, reflect on our path, and make conscious choices about the direction we want to take. In silence, we find the strength to let go of what no longer serves us and the clarity to rebuild ourselves in alignment with our true nature. When we embrace silence as the foundation of rebuilding, we discover that transformation is not something that happens to us. It is something that arises from within, from the deep stillness where our most authentic self resides. Life, by its very nature, is fluid. It flows, ebbs, and shifts with the currents of time, experience, and emotion. To live fluidly is to embrace this dynamic quality of existence, to move with life rather than against it. It is the art of adaptability, of knowing when to bend and when to stand firm, of letting go of rigid expectations and trusting in the unfolding of events as they come. Living fluidly is about embracing the uncertainty of life, not as something to be feared, but as something to be danced with. When we live fluidly, we release the need for control. So much of our suffering comes from our attachment to specific outcomes, our desire to mold life into a predictable pattern that suits our expectations. But life, like water, resists such constraints. It finds its own way, carving new paths, flowing into unexpected places. To live fluidly is to allow yourself to move with this flow, to trust that wherever life leads, there is value and meaning in the journey, even if it's not the path you initially envisioned. Living fluidly means being open to change, to the possibility that who you are today might not be who you are tomorrow, and that's okay. It means embracing the fact that your goals, dreams, and relationships will evolve as you do. It is about releasing the need for permanence in a world that is constantly shifting. In doing so, you free yourself from the anxiety of trying to hold on to what cannot be held. You allow yourself to grow, to adapt, and to become something new with each passing day. This fluid approach to life requires flexibility, not just in your actions, but in your mindset. It's easy to become fixed in certain beliefs or ways of thinking, to cling to the safety of what is known and comfortable. But living fluidly invites you to question, to remain curious, and to be willing to change your perspective when life presents new information. It's about understanding that wisdom is not static, and neither are you. Each moment offers an opportunity to learn, to shift, and to see the world through a different lens. Living fluidly also means learning to navigate the unexpected with grace. Life will not always go according to plan. There will be challenges, detours, and moments of uncertainty. But when you live fluidly, you don't resist these changes, you move with them. You understand that what appears to be a setback might actually be an opportunity for growth, for discovering a new direction. Living fluidly doesn't mean you don't experience hardship or difficulty. It means you learn to flow through those moments, trusting that they are part of the broader current of your life's journey. At its core, living fluidly is about presence. When you are present with what is happening right now, rather than fixating on what should be or what could be, you tap into the true essence of life. You engage fully with the moment, allowing it to unfold as it will, without trying to force it into a preconceived shape. This doesn't mean passivity or inaction, rather, it is about active engagement with the present moment, responding to life as it comes, rather than reacting based on old patterns or future anxieties. There's a certain freedom that comes with living fluidly. You no longer carry the weight of rigid expectations or the need for everything to fit neatly into your plans. Instead, you move lightly, navigating the changing tides with resilience and ease. You begin to trust the natural flow of life, understanding that, just like a river, it will take you where you need to go, even if the path isn't always clear. Living fluidly also nurtures resilience. When you are not bound by rigid plans or expectations, you are better able to adapt to life's changes. You bounce back from challenges more easily because you're not stuck in the mindset that things must go a certain way for you to be happy or fulfilled. You find strength in your ability to move with life's shifts, knowing that each bend in the road offers a new opportunity for growth and discovery. To live fluidly is to embrace the fullness of life in all its unpredictability. It is a recognition that life, like water, is always in motion, always evolving. By aligning yourself with this natural flow, you cultivate a deep sense of peace, knowing that you are exactly where you need to be in every moment. You begin to understand that life's true beauty lies not in its predictability, but in its capacity to surprise, to challenge, and to transform you in ways you could never have imagined. In living fluidly, you open yourself to the infinite possibilities that each moment holds, trusting that whatever comes your way, you have the capacity to move with it, to flow and to thrive. In the journey of rebuilding yourself, you are not embarking on a task of merely fixing what is broken or chasing after some elusive, perfect version of who you think you should be. Rather, it is an invitation to embrace the natural process of change, to let go of the past identities that no longer serve you, and to find the beauty in your own unfolding. You begin by grounding yourself in self-acceptance, recognizing that true transformation cannot arise from rejection, but only from a place of compassion for who you are right now. By aligning with nature's rhythm, you trust the flow of life, understanding that growth happens in its own time and that stillness is often where the deepest transformation occurs. You embrace the silence, not as an absence, but as the fertile ground from which clarity and renewal can sprout. And in living fluidly, you release the need for control, allowing yourself to adapt to life's ever-changing tides, trusting that even the unexpected holds the potential for growth. Rebuilding yourself is not about forcing change, but about opening to it. It is a dance with life, a process of continual evolution, where each step forward begins with acceptance, presence, and trust in the journey. Let go of what holds you back, surrender to the flow, and you will discover that the power to rebuild has always been within you, waiting for the moment when you are ready to step into it.